I don't know what you think about wedding dresses. A lot of people think it's just clothing, just fabric, lace, a veil. But I know that a dress is a symbol of a dream, a symbol of love, a symbol of hope. For me, my wedding dress was a symbol that I had finally become part of a family, that I had found my place, that I was loved. But my mother-in-law decided otherwise. She decided I didn't deserve to be beautiful. She decided I didn't deserve to wear the dress I'd chosen. She decided I should wear her old dress instead. And I agreed. I was foolish. I was naive. I thought if I gave in, she would love me. I was wrong. She never intended to love me. She intended to control me. She intended to humiliate me. And she succeeded. But I didn't stay humiliated forever. I survived. I became stronger. And I found a way to take back what she stole from me. Not through shouting, not through scandal, but through a quiet, cold, ruthless revenge she would remember for the rest of her days. My name is Emily. I'm 35 years old. I was born in a small town in Ohio, where everyone knows everyone and the most exciting event is the weekend fair. My parents were simple people who worked in a factory and dreamed that I would have a better life. I went to college, earned a degree, got a job at a small design studio. I was happy. And then I met James. He was an engineer, kind, caring, and we fell in love. A year later, he proposed. I said yes. I thought my life was beginning anew. But along with my husband, I got his mother. And she became my personal nightmare. My mother-in-law, Margaret, was a woman in her 60s. She was a widow, living alone, and her world revolved around her son. She didn't want to let him go. She wanted him to remain her little boy forever. And I was a threat to her control. From the very beginning, she didn't hide her hostility. She criticized everything I did. My cooking, my clothes, my job, my parenting. But the most painful thing for me was her interference in my wedding. She said my wedding dress was ugly, and that I should wear her old dress, which she'd kept in the attic. I wanted to refuse. I wanted to say it was my wedding and I would choose what I wanted. But I was afraid. Afraid she would get angry. Afraid she would ruin the wedding. Afraid she would turn my husband against me. I gave in. I wore her old dress. I was humiliated. But I stayed silent. I didn't know that this moment would define my entire future life. Margaret's wedding dress was old, yellowed, with stains on the hem. It was too big for me, hanging on me like a sack. I looked at myself in the mirror and didn't recognize myself. I was a bride, but I didn't feel beautiful. I felt like a victim. The wedding went on, and I smiled, but inside I was burning. I knew I would never forgive her for this. I knew I would repay this debt, but I didn't know when. I waited. I waited for years. A few years after the wedding, I learned that the original dress I'd chosen had been sold at auction. I didn't know who'd bought it, but I decided I had to find it. I had to get back what was stolen from me. I searched for it for years, checking all the auction sites, all the shops, all the private collections. And one day I found it. It was in Los Angeles with a collector who bought vintage wedding dresses. I contacted him, made an offer, and he agreed to sell it to me. I bought it. I brought it home. I hung it in my closet and looked at it every day. I knew that one day I would wear it. I knew that one day I would show it to my mother-in-law. And I waited for that day. I invited the whole family to dinner. I said I wanted to celebrate our wedding anniversary. I wanted everyone to be there. I wanted my mother-in-law to see me in that dress. I wanted her to know I hadn't forgotten. I wanted her to remember this day forever. The wedding had been in a small church where Margaret had been married 40 years earlier. She'd insisted on it. "It's tradition, dear," she'd said. "You must respect our family's traditions." I agreed. I thought if I gave in on small things, she would give in on the big things. I was wrong. She never gave in. I stood at the altar in her old dress, which smelled of mothballs and dust. I looked at James and smiled. I wanted him to think I was happy. I didn't want him to know I felt humiliated. I wanted this day to be perfect for us. But it wasn't perfect. It was the day I realized my mother-in-law would never accept me. It was the day I realized I had to fight. After the wedding, we went on our honeymoon. It was a happy time. Just the two of us, without her criticism, without her interference. I started to believe everything would be fine. I started to believe we could build our own life independent of her. But when we returned, everything went back to the way it was. Margaret called every day. She came over uninvited. She gave advice I hadn't asked for. She criticized every move I made. I endured it. I thought if I was patient, she would change. But she didn't change. She only got worse. One day, About a year after the wedding, I overheard her talking on the phone with a friend. I was standing in the hallway and couldn't move. "Yes, she's gotten on my nerves," she was saying. "She can't cook, can't clean, can't be a wife. My son deserves better." But I made sure she knew her place. I made her wear my old dress to the wedding, and she wore it. "She's so weak. She'll never be happy." I stood there listening. Tears streamed down my cheeks. I couldn't believe she thought that way. I couldn't believe she said those things. I felt betrayed. I felt destroyed. But I also felt anger boiling inside me. I decided I wouldn't take it anymore. I decided I would prove her wrong. I started building my career. I worked harder than ever. I became a successful designer. I started earning good money. I bought my own car, my own house, my own life. I became independent. I stopped needing her approval. But I didn't forget about the dress. I knew that one day I would find it. I knew that one day I would wear it. And I would prove to her that she hadn't broken me. I would prove that I was stronger. I searched for the dress for 5 years. I checked every website, every shop, every auction. I called collectors, wrote letters, never gave up. And one day I found it. It was in a small shop in Los Angeles that specialized in vintage wedding dresses. I couldn't believe my eyes. It was the very dress I'd chosen, with lace sleeves, a long train, pearl buttons down the back. It was perfect. I cried. I bought it. I brought it home and hung it in my closet. I looked at it every day. I knew that one day I would wear it. I knew that one day I would show it to my mother-in-law. And I waited for that day. I decided to invite the whole family to dinner. I said I wanted to celebrate our wedding anniversary. I wanted everyone to be there. I wanted my mother-in-law to see me in that dress. I wanted her to know I hadn't forgotten. I wanted her to remember this day forever. I bought the dress. It hung in my closet, wrapped in thin fabric like a treasure. I couldn't stop admiring it. Every time I opened the door, my heart beat faster. I remembered the day I'd first chosen it. In the bridal salon, standing before the mirror, feeling like the most beautiful woman in the world. I remembered how Margaret had looked at me then and said, "It's too flashy. It's not for our family. You should be more modest." And I, naive and foolish, obeyed. I let her steal not just a dress, but a moment. My moment. But now I was taking it back. I started preparing for the dinner 2 weeks in advance. I wanted everything to be perfect. I wanted my mother-in-law to feel comfortable, to relax, to think I'd finally accepted things. I knew that only then would my blow be maximally painful. I ordered her favorite flowers, white lilies, which she always placed on her table. I made her favorite dish, roasted chicken with herbs and mashed potatoes, which she always praised. I did everything to make her feel like the queen of the evening. But she didn't know I wasn't preparing dinner for her. I was preparing a trap. The day before the dinner, I took the dress out of the closet. I hung it on the door so I could see it every minute. I looked at the lace, the pearl buttons, the long train, and smiled. Tomorrow she would see me in it. Tomorrow she would understand I hadn't broken. Tomorrow she would understand she'd lost. I tried on the dress and felt a wave of calm spread through me. It fit perfectly, as if it had been made just for me. I turned before the mirror and realized I'd never looked so beautiful. My husband, James, walked in and froze. He'd never seen me in this dress. I hadn't told him I'd found it. I hadn't told him what I was planning. He looked at me with admiration and surprise. "Emily, that's the dress you wanted for the wedding. Where did you find it?" I smiled. "I bought it at an auction, James. I searched for it for 5 years. And I'll wear it to tomorrow's dinner. I want your mother to see me in it. I want her to understand I haven't forgotten." He looked at me with concern. "Emily, don't do this. She's an old woman. She's sick. She won't survive such humiliation." I looked at him and shook my head. "She has to survive it, James. She humiliated me for 3 years. She made me wear her old dress so I'd feel worthless. Now I'll show her I'm not worthless. I just want her to know I remember." He sighed and said nothing. I knew he didn't approve of my plan. But I also knew he wouldn't stop me. The evening arrived. I put on the dress an hour before the guests were due. I did my makeup, styled my hair, wore the shoes I'd chosen for the wedding. I looked at myself in the mirror and felt like a warrior ready for battle. When the doorbell rang, my heart beat faster. I walked into the living room, and all eyes turned to me. My mother-in-law stood at the door holding a bouquet of flowers. She smiled, but when she saw me, her smile vanished. She went pale. She stood there staring at me in horror. She recognized the dress. She understood what I'd done. I walked up to her and kissed her on the cheek. "Good evening, Margaret. I'm so glad you came. Come in, sit down." She couldn't speak. She walked into the living room and sat at the table, unable to take her eyes off me. I sat at the head of the table, glowing in my dress. I saw her looking at me with hatred and fear. I knew she was afraid. Afraid of what I would say, afraid of what I would do. I smiled and chatted with the guests, pretending nothing was happening. But I saw her suffering. I saw her clenching her hands under the table. I saw her trying to keep face. But she couldn't. She was destroyed. When dinner was over, I stood up. I raised my glass and said, "I want to raise this glass to my family, to everyone who's been by my side, even when things were hard, especially to my mother-in-law, Margaret. You've always been an example of strength and resilience for me. Thank you for teaching me to be strong, for showing me how to fight for my happiness, and for teaching me one important thing: never let anyone humiliate you." She looked at me with hatred. I knew she understood. I knew she knew this was a message. I smiled and sat back down. The evening continued, but I knew it had changed everything. The evening was drawing to a close. Guests began to leave, hugging me, thanking me for dinner, kissing me on the cheek. I felt tension building inside me. I knew the most important conversation was still ahead. I knew that when the last guest left, I would be alone with my mother-in-law. I knew this would be the moment of truth. I wasn't afraid, I was ready. When the door closed behind the last guest, I turned to Margaret. She was standing by the window, staring into the darkness, silent. She didn't look at me. She was afraid. I walked over and stood beside her. We were silent for several minutes. I could hear her breathing, heavy and uneven. I could see her hands trembling. I knew she was afraid of what I would say. She was afraid to hear the truth. But I decided she had to hear it. "Margaret, I want to talk to you," I said in a calm voice. "I want to tell you something important. You know this dress I wore tonight? You recognized it immediately. It's the dress I chose for my wedding, the one you called ugly. The one you made me put aside so I could wear your old, dusty dress. You did it to humiliate me. You did it to show me I was nothing. You did it so I would know my place. But I haven't forgotten. I haven't forgotten how I stood at the altar in your dress, feeling worthless. I haven't forgotten how you smiled, knowing I was suffering. I haven't forgotten how you did everything to make me feel inferior. And tonight, I repaid that debt." She turned to me. Her eyes were full of tears. She opened her mouth but couldn't speak. I continued, "You thought I was weak. You thought I would never fight back. You thought I would remain your victim forever. But you were wrong. I'm stronger than you think. I'm smarter than you think. I found this dress. I bought it. I wore it. And I showed you that you didn't break me. You wanted me to feel humiliated. Now you know what it's like to be humiliated. You wanted me to feel worthless. Now you know what it's like to be worthless. You wanted me to fear you. Now you fear me," she cried. She fell to her knees and sobbed. "Emily, please forgive me. I was cruel, jealous, angry. I didn't want to hurt you. I just wanted to control my son. I wanted him to be mine. You came and took him from me. I couldn't accept it. I did everything to make you leave. But you didn't leave. You stayed. You became stronger. I didn't know you were so strong. I'm begging you. Forgive me." I looked down at her. I felt no pity, no sympathy, only emptiness. The emptiness she had filled with her cruelty. The emptiness I had to fill with the truth. "I won't forgive you, Margaret," I said. "I can't forgive you. You caused me too much pain. You stole a moment that should have been the happiest of my life. You humiliated me in front of my entire family. You did everything to make me feel worthless. You don't deserve forgiveness. But I don't want you to suffer. I just want you to know, I haven't forgotten. I will never forget. And I will never let you do this to me again. You no longer have power over me. You can no longer humiliate me. You can no longer control me. I am free. I am strong. I have won." She knelt there, looking at me with empty eyes. I turned and walked out of the room. I left her on her knees, with a broken heart and shattered pride. I felt no joy, no satisfaction, only freedom. The freedom she had stolen from me, and which I had reclaimed. Several years passed. Margaret died. I didn't go to her funeral. I didn't want to say goodbye to her. I just wanted to forget her. I continued living my life. I was happy with my husband and children. I built a career, bought my own house, created my own family. I was free from her criticism, her control, her hatred. I was free. I often think about what would have happened if I hadn't found that dress, if I hadn't worn it to that dinner, if I hadn't told her the truth. I think I would have stayed a victim. I think I would have kept suffering. I think I would have never felt free. But I found it. I wore it. I spoke the truth. And I became free. If you've been humiliated, if someone has tried to destroy your life, remember you are stronger than they think. You can rise. You can become stronger. You can take back what was stolen from you. Not through scandal, not through shouting, but through truth, through strength, through justice. I did it. You can too. Subscribe to the channel if you also believe that justice must prevail. Share in the comments how you've dealt with humiliation. It would mean a lot to know I'm not alone. Hit like if my story resonated with you. And remember, you're stronger than you think. Even when you feel broken, you can rise. That was my path. Could be yours too. Thank you for listening to me. Until next time.